My game of the day from round 4 of the London Chess Classic is Hikaru Nakamura against Viswanathan Anand. Nakamura with the white pieces. He has an excellent record against Anand. So let's see what happened in this game today. It's standard Catalan position, that's with the fianchetto here. And now the main line is to castle. Black takes on c4, and you can see white recovers the pawn, but black is able to play b5 and bring out this problem bishop from c8 onto the long diagonal, and well, that's the starting point of the Catalan. But Nakamura played a sideline. He played queen c2. Now the point of this move order is that if black attempts to play in the same way with a6 and b5, then white can get in bishop f4 to hit that pawn, and it's not so easy for black to free himself. But there are drawbacks to playing the queen out before you castle, and one of them is that after c5 you can see that, well, if white takes on c5, then this is a good check, followed by taking here, and black shouldn't have any problems. But after c5, Nakamura castled, and this has been seen before, but it's something of a sideline. Vichy took on d4. This is normal, and here black has a choice. The most popular move is to play knight c6, and this goes into a kind of reverse Grunfeld, actually. I mean, it's quite acceptable for black. Or another line, well, that Anand has played in the past is e5, and this is much sharper. So black takes on the responsibility of a centre, but you lose your bishops. Well, that's more double-edged. But Anand played in this game queen b6, not the most common move, but he has played this before with success. But clearly Nakamura had anticipated this and had some preparation ready. Now in this position, once again, pawn takes knight is possible, but Vichy played queen takes knight. This is the point of bringing the queen out early. So you can see this pawn on c4 is pinned. And in a game in Stavanger 2015, in the Blitz tournament there, Aronian against Anand now played knight a3. But after this exchange, well, black was a pawn up. White obviously has compensation, but black was fine here, and Vichy actually won the game with black. But here was Nakamura's improvement. He played bishop g5, so basically just putting pressure on the d5 pawn. And if black takes on c4, then we have an absolutely typical Catalan position where this bishop on the long diagonal is simply far superior to the bishop on c8, and once this knight comes to c4, that is a lot of fun for white to play. So Anand played h6, and this involves a pawn sacrifice. He grabs the two bishops. I mean, this is a monster piece on f6. He still has to solve the problem of his bishop here, but that bishop on f6 is wonderful. Now knight a3, so pressure is building here. Bishop d7, you have to bring out that bishop somehow. And now rook b1. This looks like a curious move, but basically, as we'll see, in this position Nakamura just wants to nudge the queen to the d file and wants this pawn protected by the rook. Rook here. Now white wins a pawn, but black is really well coordinated here. You can see all the pieces have been developed. Black is really active, and it's all about the bishop pair. Great compensation, particularly when that knight is stuck out on the edge on a3. I mean, at first glance, when I was commentating on this game, and I have to say, I thought this knight was absolutely horrible, and that Vichy was doing really well here. Certainly excellent compensation. But Nakamura was playing his moves really quickly, and clearly he had prepared all this. There are many players that would simply look at that knight and think, even for a pawn, I'm not going there. But Nakamura said after the game, well look, this is modern chess. You know, the computer thinks this is okay for white, so you just play it. I'm a pawn up, and you just have to make the best of it. Well, fair enough. And, well, let's see what happened. He takes d5, bishop takes d5. It's a monster piece. Black really has to deal with it. At the time we were toying with ideas like bishop e8. But, as Nakamura said, you know, white can just cement that bishop in the middle of the board and at some moment fling this knight round to the king side, and white definitely better there. So I think Vishy made a good decision to play bishop c6 to deal with this bishop straight away. That was protected by the pawn. And now a6, just securing these pawns and keeping the knight bottled in at the side. h4. This move I really like, and if Nakamura has time to make this move, which it seems he does, then the computer assessment of the position should be, well, we should appreciate it. The computer thinks that white is slightly better here, and, well, with an extra pawn, yeah, I can understand why Nakamura would go for this. Why do I like h4? Well, it takes away the g5 square from the bishop. That can be useful. But later on, we can try and squash black's king and just keep it locked in, and that could be really important when you're attacking along the 8th rank or along this diagonal, or perhaps trying to win the f5 square. The great thing about advancing your h-pawn is that it doesn't compromise your own king position. It's one of my favourite strategic attacking methods. Okay, Vishy exchanged off on d5. Well, he had to get rid of that bishop, and there is a big pass pawn on d5. I thought that Anand should somehow deal with this by doubling on the d-file, either rook d7 or rook d6. But you know, white, and certainly black has compensation. So Vishy played queen b4. This didn't work out well, because after rook b1, the problem is, you know, black is ready to play knight b4 and kick the queen out anyway. So the queen came back, and now Nakamura seized his chance. b4. Now Anand played queen a4. It's not clear which piece is worse. The queen stuck on the edge or the knight stuck on the edge. Well, as we're about to see, probably the queen. I mean, maybe it would have been better to put the queen back to b6. But curious situation. After rook b3, that black queen locks out of the game. But, you know, white still has to bring that knight on a3 into the game. But certainly by this stage, looks like Nakamura is starting to gain a serious advantage. It's certainly difficult for black now. Rook e2, interesting move, hitting the bishop. Now, afterwards, Nakamura said he felt that bishop takes b4 was the correct move, but I can understand why Anand didn't want to go in for this. After rook e4, then black is forced to play a5, and now we have a really comical position where the queen is completely boxed in. The bishop can't move, it's obviously pinned. So in some ways, you know, white has a free hand here. I mean, I think, well, for a start, white can't take on b5. That's important. That's fine for black. But what white does is instead wait. I think king g2 is a good move. Get the king off the back rank, avoid any problems there, and you know, slowly improve his position. You know, h5 I think is an important move to box in the king, and I think, you know, at some moment white will choose the right time to bring the knight back into play, maybe swing it to the king side, maybe just take here, but white is certainly better, and I can understand why Vishy was reluctant to go in for this. Rook c7, but there's no doubt that Nakamura is now in control of the position. He can just maneuver very carefully and get things right. If a5, I mean, this move is important for black to, try and break free, but the problem is knight c2. Now exchanging will bring the knight into here and probably here, but if queen a2, then knight d4 is strong, hitting the queen, and that knight wants to maybe take here, maybe here. This is good for white. Let's go back. Rook e7 played, rook d2. Queen e2, that keeps an eye on b5, so preventing a5. g6. Well, if Vichy can stabilise on the king side with h5, king g7, things might not be so bad, but this was the moment for Nakamura to move forward with the h-pawn, and this is highly unpleasant for black. Obviously you don't want to take that and open up your king, and also you don't want to allow white to exchange here, which will open up the king along this diagonal along the 7th rank. So Vichy kept it closed, but that is an inviting square for the knight. Let's see how Hikaru managed to get his knight there. Queen d1, protecting that pawn, and preparing this move, knight c2, and that knight finally comes back into play. Black's queen is suffering. Took on a2, but it's attacked. Now if the queen goes back to a4, then, well, queen b1, keeping this one locked in. I mean, this is a tremendous position for white. There's rook a2 is threatened. So Vichy exchanged queens, but now white remains a pawn up. Knight f5 is the dream square, hitting the bishop, hitting the h6 pawn. Of course, rook takes pawn will be met by knight e7 check, and that's over and out. Bishop came back to g7, protecting everything, but rook a6, Nakamura in total control. Pawn up, massive positional advantage. It's a winning position, and he mopped up very easily. d6, good move, keeping, just rolling on. This one's also weak, just won't be long before this one comes into the game. Anand took knight h6, and in this position Anand actually resigned. Was that too soon? Not really. You can see knight f6 check threatened. Well, if the bishop comes back to cover the f6 square, this rook swings across. The king is actually very exposed. Don't forget this move is possible. Basically all black's pawns are weak. Something else is going to drop off here. Knight e5. It's a terrible position, and well, I don't think Anand resigned too soon. Very nice game from Nakamura, but well, as he said afterwards, this is modern chess. If the computer says you're better, even if you've got a horrible knight on at the side of the board, well, you just have to play these positions. It's the best chance you're going to get for a win. But interesting that Nakamura has such a high score against Anand. I think he's very good at taking Anand into sort of slightly unusual sidelines and away from his theory. Thanks for watching.